Now, 2 new battle groups have been added to WARNO, and one of them is the 119th Guard. That is right. We're gonna go into it, kind of go through some of the units that have been added. There are some new units that have been added to the game as well, I believe. And then we're gonna kind of hop into, you know, the preliminary battle group that I've created. The logistics, nothing too special. You do get plenty of supply trucks. You also get the MI8 supply with 1500 fuel or supplies, which is nice because then you can resupply these guys because it has less supplies. And the way this works in game is a truck with less supply, so a unit that has more supplies than another unit can resupply that unit. If they both have the same amount of supply, so 1000 and 1000, they're not going to be able to resupply each other. So it's nice to have helicopters that have more supplies than your biggest supply truck. Okay. Other than that, we have some BMP command units, BTRs, and also a FOB. Nothing really too special. Infantry tab is very limited. It's very, very limited. This battle group is not going to be able to really heavily depend on infantry. Mainly also because everything costs 3 points at some point, like really, really quickly. We have the NSV squads. We have Monostrelakis. They come in BMP 1Ps. We have Saparis. We have Saparis with satchel charges, but you can get 3 cards of Saparis with RPOs. But again, like if you get 3 cards, that's already 4 points spent. Then you haven't even touched the Spetsnaz or anything else. Speaking of, we have a Spetsnaz command, Spetsnaz OP with the RPG-29, and we have regular Spetsnaz as well. The cool thing is the amount of kind of different types of transport, so it doesn't go really heavy into the IFV traits or IFV vehicles. The heaviest one you get is the BMP-1P, which isn't the best, but you know, it's something. But the cool thing is you can get a lot of airborne Spetsnaz with the Mi-8 rocket. It doesn't have any ECM, it's not the ECM variant of it, but still has tons of rockets that you can use to get these guys on the front line. But yeah, it's very expensive, so let's say you get the Spetsnaz OP, the Sapari, regular Sapari, and some of the Monostrelakis. You've already spent 10 points, so it's quite expensive. Artillery, interesting new unit that has been added. So we have the 2A65 Musta B152mm, huge gun, really huge gun, 3 HE damage, rate of fire is 4, salvo length is 4, so it's actually quite a good arty piece. Definitely something I would put in my battle group, and perhaps both cards of it, because you get 4 in total, for only 130 points. Think about it, that is quite cheap. You can also go for Gwastikas, you can get 2 cards of 3 each. But if you compare the HE damage, you can tell that, yeah, the Musta is a third better and has much better range as well. So that's definitely something I would want to try on the battlefield. You also have the Vasiliks, which are nice for a quick kind of suppression on the battlefield against some, you know, lightly entrenched infantry units. Now we come to the interesting part, the tanks. We have the TO-55 Napalm tank. We have the 100mm anti-tank gun with 80 gems, which is pretty nice to use. Good stealth on these guys as well. I always recommend turning off the 80 gem and just using the gun whenever it's in a good range. With that 10 rate of fire and 15 AP, it's going to just wreck. Conqueror's Vehicle, nothing too special. It is nice to use though. We can get 3 cards of T-80 BVKs with 2 tanks each. Okay, so you don't even need to get a command here. You don't even need to get a command in the infantry tab, which is smart because really expensive. You can get 6 command tanks in your tank tab. Speaking of tanks, we can get T-80Us, 6 total, and the lowest veterancy, which is actually not a bad idea, because you already have 60% accuracy, but if you up-vet these guys slightly, you go up to 62%. So this lowest veterancy, that's the highest veterancy. Not a huge bump, in my opinion, to lose a third of your, you know, availability here. Which might be a good reason to go for the trained. But going for veteran does give you the stress resistance, which is great when you're in a tank-on-tank battle. And yeah, the rate of fire goes up a little bit, and the stress recovery goes up, so I always try to up-vet these guys. But then you can also get T-80Us, but before you could get 2 on lowest or the medium veterancy, I believe, in the 79th. Now you only get 2 if you go for trained. So they did get a pretty good nerf. And the price is now 340 points as well. I don't know if that was a big change. I kind of forgot about that. But you can get 6 cards of these with 2 on trains. So that is, yeah, that is 12 T-80 UDs that you can get. But it's going to cost you quite a bit. So I would probably do something like that and just try to roll with it. But yeah, it's really, really interesting to see. Now the recon tab, not really that special. We have BRDM2s, we have Rozvedkas, which come in the MI8s, not the one with ECM, but you do have them in MI8s with rockets, regular MI8s, MI2T, and the BMP, which is also recon on its own, with good optics. Then we have the Rozvedka Sapri, which comes in helicopters and a BTR-60 or gases. But the way I would build this probably is just try to use as much recon as possible, because you will be lacking severely in the infantry areas, and try to, you know, try to buff up wherever your infantry is lacking with your recon units. You can also get the Spetsnaz GRU, which is a must, so I would immediately put everything, yeah, I would just get all these guys, basically, and try to make them work. And the MI-24K. But yeah, the main purpose of this battle group is definitely armor, with infantry basically filling the gaps. Now, speaking of AA, or, well, we didn't really speak of it, AA is a little bit weak. So in the AA tab, you know, you don't have the Cubs, you don't have the Bucks. You do have the Tungushkas, which I haven't really given much love this in this game. Mainly because the surface-to-air missiles are kind of bad, I have to say. I mean, the range against helicopters is nice, but the accuracy being 50% only is kind of rough. If you go for higher training, it goes up to 52. Yeah. The salvo length is 8, so that's kind of nice. The rate of fire is 25, so one almost every 2 seconds, or slightly more than 2 seconds. Which is dang good. It's mainly about the gun, I guess. Really good, accurate autocannon that has a decent range against helicopters. Not, you know, also decent range against aircraft. But yeah, it's really expensive. The other AAPs you have are the Strela 10Ms, which are just good in general. I honestly never have any complaints about these, unless they miss all 8 shots. And then we also have the manpads, and you can get 6 on veteran, which is also nice. So yeah, I would probably just do something like this and just hope for the best, I guess. Probably get 2. But with this battle group, again, you have to rely on other areas of your battle group to kind of compensate for some weaker parts of it, which is the helicopter, or which is the AA part, so that's kind of weak. But you need to compensate with other units. But before we get to that, we have the heli tab with the Mi-24 rocket version, with the 122mm rockets, also 4 Kokon AT gems, pretty nice. We have the Mi-24 VAA, Mi-24 VAT with the 8 Kokon AT gems, and the VP with 16 Kokon AT gems. And yeah, that's gonna just be nuts to use. Now we come to the fun part. We have 4 SU-27s that we can come in with. Now, I don't know if it's a good idea to go for the highest veterancy. It does make them absolutely killer with 66% accuracy on those missiles, which is nuts. I might honestly just do that for the shits and giggles and just have 2 elite SU-27s. That is going to absolutely smoke whatever AAPs or not AAPs, whatever plane tries to, you know, brawl with you. You're gonna absolutely trash those. Those stats are amazing. I would arguably say this is probably the best plane in the game with, you know, this veterancy and these stats. If you disagree with me, let me know why and come up with, you know, a good argument, I guess. Other than that, you have a really good seaplane as well, the SU-24 MP with 60% accuracy, which is absolutely nuts. So let's say an AA has 50% accuracy on you. I'm gonna calculate this. So 50% accuracy and 60% ECM, so that drops it down to, hold on a second. Let's do this here. 50 divided by 100 times 60, so that's 30. That drops it down to 20%, is that correct? 60% of... Yeah, so it drops it down to 20% accuracy. Which is insane! 20% accuracy, like that. None of that is gonna hit. And otherwise you're gonna be very lucky. That is crazy. And if you get 2 on veteran, what it does is it does bump the agility up, which is really important because you don't want the turn radius of these guys to be basically the entire map, because then you'll definitely get hit by something at some point. But yeah, man, the missile isn't the best, but still, if it even doesn't hit, it's probably going to stun or suppress that AA piece if it hits nearby. So yeah, I think it's gonna be a really strong battle group in the air tab in terms of, you know, on a couple fields with dogfighting and also anti-air suppression. You do have the laser guided bombs, which I don't really use that often, but you might have to in this case. You can get 2 of them. And even if you feel like you're lacking anti-air capabilities, you can get another card of MiG-29s to buff up your Su-27s and also get them on Elite. This battle group could be an air superiority battle group. Look at that. All elite fighters, all at 66% accuracy with all the missiles. Gotta be nuts. You also have the Su-22M bomber. That is the only bomber you have though. So you don't really have air-to-ground capabilities except for, you know, in terms of seed you do obviously, but the only like kind of bomber units you have is the Su-24 and the laser-guided one, which is quite expensive. But that is pretty much all you have. And in terms of RD, you also do slightly lack no rocket RD pieces, and the AA you kind of lack long range. So yeah, you have a couple of weaknesses, but man, you do have some really good strengths as well. So I would say this battle group is kind of... Man, in some cases it's better than the 79th in terms of, for example, the air tab. But in other cases it's worse because of the AA tab, the RD tab, and also the infantry tab. But we will see what kind of strategies people come up with while playing with this, and that is really the main point. I don't want all these battle groups to be, you know, kind of the same and just be good at everything, because then it kind of just sucks the fun out of trying to come up with strategies to make a bad battle group work really well against a good battle group. Now, this didn't really come without a sacrifice to other battle groups, especially the 79th, well, basically only the 79th. The T80UDs and the T80Us moved to the 119th that has been added, but we did get a new kind of interesting tank to play with, the T80BV IZD. So it's basically an upgraded T80BV. Now in terms of main cannon, it's all the same, but the ATGM goes from the Cobra with 19 penetration and 45% accuracy to the Agona with 21 pen and 55% accuracy, which for 15 points is an amazing upgrade. The heavy machine gun is the same, the armor values is the same, but there is also another difference. The speed. The off-road speed of the T80BV IZD on the left side here in this comparison is 72 kilometers per hour versus 63. And the on-road speed is the same, but the T80BV IZD thus will be much better at kind of these, you know, big field pushes with tanks because they're simply faster. You know, 9 kilometers faster, 9 kilometers per hour faster can make a big difference here because you can get to the enemy positions much faster before they can reinforce them with more tanks. But that is basically, you know, the only difference that they've made to the 79th Guard. Anyways, that said, hopefully this video taught you a little bit about the 119th battle group, and I will see you guys on the battlefield. Take care.